Joining me on the line, we were talking off air. It's been about a year since last we talked. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Shippy is on the line. Hey, Steve, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me back.
Hey, how did the first season of Haunting in the Heartland go?
It went great, actually. We had great ratings. We had great responses, great feedback. And I guess the only thing I could say, unfortunately for us, is the series began on Travel Channel just as the pandemic began and the quarantine and all the chaos.
How did that, and I know we got to get to the Ed Gein stuff here coming up, but how did the pandemic affect paranormal investigating for you guys? Did it shut it down completely?
Well, I guess, to a degree, I think for paranormal investigation series, it definitely caused quite a bit of problems, I guess, because, people were trying to scramble to figure out when can we shoot again, when can we film, how can we do it safely, what will the protocol be, how bad is this going to get? It was so unknown at first, for quite a while, and it seemed like around the end of summer, early fall, I think everybody had a better idea of what COVID really was, the effects, and so then it, started to resume again. But for me personally, beyond my endeavors with networks, I continue to actually shoot 3 documentaries during that time.
Stuff for the future or stuff that's out now?
Stuff for the future, part of the Haunted Saginaw series that I have on Prime. 10 films available now and several more coming.
Cool, and that's all at your website and everything, correct?
Yeah, they can find it at Haunted Saginaw, SAGINAW.com.
All right, we'll put that link over at the website, KGGO.com as well. All right, Steve, let's get to it. You've got a new series, or I guess is it a series or a documentary on Discovery Plus?
Documentary.
Okay.
It's part of Travel Channel's Shock Docs series.
And where did you go this time?
We went to Plainfield, Wisconsin, to investigate the crimes and the paranormal activity of Ed Gein.
You know what? I was doing a little bit of research because I'm not into or I shouldn't say I'm not into it. It's just not one of my cornerstone things, but the true crime stuff. You start looking a little into Ed's life, and it's like, ooh, this is evil.
Yeah, I mean, most certainly. There's for so many reasons, right? You've got the really distorted, abusive relationship between Ed and his mother, Augusta, which kind of spawned the fictional character Norman Bates in Psycho. And, of course, you have the monster that he became, the crimes that he committed. We've never, we, meaning the world, has never seen anything like Ed Gein before, and hopefully we never do again.
He's one of those guys that it doesn't take long to realize, yeah, bad dude.
Oh, man, his crimes were horrific.
All right, so you went in to do the paranormal side of this. Tell us a little bit about the documentary, because it is on Discovery Plus. It's out now. What was it like? Was there a little bit of trepidation going into this? Because, most hauntings, you kind of go in with the, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun type thing. Ed Gein doesn't scream fun.
No, definitely not. I mean, we had a pretty foreboding sense from the very beginning that this is a case that, you would want to be very guarded, very careful on many different levels. We didn't really know exactly what to expect. I mean, before jumping into a case, you're always trying to do your diligence. You're really trying to get an accurate picture of what's happening out there. What are the claims? Is there any evidence so far? Which there was. Locals had provided us some video and audio that they had gathered themselves. So we had an idea of what we thought we may encounter. But then when we went out there, the activity was, at least in my opinion, 100 times more than what I anticipated. Then working in tandem with psychic medium Cindy Keza, she was having a lot of horrific experiences. She felt that Gein was targeting her, I guess true to his nature, targeting females.
Yeah.
And even the energy of Gein's mother, Augusta, seemed to really kind of be after her.
Hey, Steve, let me ask you something real quick, because I want to know more about the investigation itself, but whose idea was it to do this?
Well, so long story short, I was contacted by a producer that, had been studying the different claims of activity, and as well as, having a kind of, I don't want to say a fascination with Gein, but, very interested in Gein as a subject of a documentary. And so once, that kind of became clear that was his goal, he was led to me as an investigator. They thought that I might be the perfect person to investigate this for several different reasons. And I remember getting that phone call, and one of the first things that they said to me is, do you know who Ed Gein is? And then I just instantly started rattling off fact after fact after fact. And then they kind of cut me off and they said, okay, we don't need to ask anything more other than, would you go out there? Would you film this? Would you investigate this case? And I told them that I absolutely would. And that's where it started.
Oh, wow. Because that seems like one of those things that you almost take a beat or two, like, give me about an hour to think about this.
Well, Dean is somebody that I had studied on my own, many times just out of interest and stuff. He inspired a lot of the films that, that are iconic to me. And, he was kind of part of the,
yeah.
I guess you could say that pop culture kind of growing up. You can't help but, study things like that or watch programming on it. And, I really started to look at the facts afterward and saw that there were a lot of people that felt that they were affected by, the hauntings that were taking place. And so we felt that, why don't we go in there, see if this is really happening or not, and get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so you head in to do, and by the way, this is Steve Shippy on the line talking about Shock Docs, Ed Gein, the real psycho. So you go to Wisconsin for this whole thing. How many places did you investigate? What was kind of the whole story behind this?
Sure. So we were able to gain access and be the first investigators ever to be able to get permission to bring a crew and film on the Ed Gein property, the Ed Gein farm, where his home was, where he committed these atrocities. We were able to go to the old Washura County Historical Society, not only to gain a wealth of information, but that used to be the old county jail where Gein was held and interrogated, that it's said to be haunted by Gein himself,
okay.
The Plainfield Cemetery. And then we actually had kind of ended up with an impromptu investigation. Anytime that you go out in the field, no matter how much you plan on who you're going to talk to and where you're going to go,
I know where this
leads
is
will always surface, without question. And we were told that there was a local individual that had a weapon that belonged to Gein in his collection. So we were able to get him on the phone and ask him, hey, could we interview you? Could we come out? Could we look at this item? So while in conversation with him, we learned that not only does he have this item, and others actually of Gein's that we didn't end up being displayed, but he believed wholeheartedly that his life had taken a drastic turn for the worse by possessing these items. And I mean some really bad stuff. Bad luck, that doesn't even come close to explaining what this man had dealt with. And so he believed that he was being haunted pretty severely. So we conducted an investigation at his home, and immediately, meters are going off left and right, activity left and right. I should stop there as to not spoil anything, but man, very, very glad that we were able to run into that man and talk to him, and we urged him to get rid of that item, certainly not to pass it on to somebody else, but maybe dispose of it properly.
Steve Shippy joining me on the line to talk about Ed Gein, the real psycho. You can find it on Discovery Plus. We'll have some links over at the website as well, kggo.com. There is always that one guy. Hey, did you talk to old Ted? Who's old Ted? Oh, old Ted knows, all this other. There's always that guy in one of these,
Oh, yeah. Always. Yeah,
and Ted is just a complete name that I just pulled out of, the ether. But in this whole documentary, how long were you guys in town? How long did it take to film this?
I was there for just over 2 weeks in Plainfield.
Okay. And in that time, and I know we'll see it in the documentary, but what was the place you felt most, I don't want to say bothered by, but the place you're like, okay, yeah, Ed could be here, or a piece of Ed could be here?
Well, to be honest, most of the places we went to, we had that feeling. It was almost like a sense like this man was following us around the town, but but then again, we're at specific locations to him. So that would make sense. But to be real honest with you, obviously the farm, hands down, was, a very ominous place without question. But I was surprised at how I felt personally at this gentleman's house who had the knife. I really felt that was not a place to be, and I was very eager to leave.
That makes sense because, there's a whole thought of, people that want to buy, items that have committed murder or killed somebody because they think they have power with it. I imagine the knife of Ed Gein would be pretty up there for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, without question. There was a really dreadful feeling in that man's home. He seemed like a very nice person. Obviously, that vibe does not come from him. But I could totally understand where he was coming from and why he was feeling the way he was feeling.
I gotcha. What did Cindy make of this whole thing?
Well, Cindy was very bothered by what was happening, opening herself up to these things. She had a slew of experiences. She felt she was under attack multiple times, not only from the energy of Gein himself, but also his mother, Augusta. Seeing a lot of horrible imagery. Actually, she's gone on the record to say something to the effect of she really believes this case will stick with her forever.
Oh, wow. And this is all on Discovery Plus, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. It's available for streaming right now.
All right. Steve, I don't want to spoil too much of the documentary for people. Plainsfield, Wisconsin, going to stick in your mind for a long time?
I don't ever forget any place I've gone or who I've been, that I've worked with or helped out or whatever the case may be. But certainly, if I wanted to forget about Plainfield, Wisconsin, I couldn't.
Oh, it's always that kind of thing, isn't it? But I bet you had an amazing time there, didn't you?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely extremely interesting, holding reports in my hand that I know very few people have ever got to see, knowing way more information about the case than you can even find online or in other docs or other books written about the case. Definitely, it was interesting. It was very compelling and I guess a whole gamut of emotions, you could say.
Actually, Steve, before I ask you, I've got, because I want to know what else you got coming up here. One more thing about this. Do you think it was just he was a horrible human being, or do you think there was something else going on with Ed?
I definitely think there was something else going on. I mean, he was raised in a very abusive household. He had a very angry and also kind of a vacant alcoholic father. His mother was very dominating, basically instilled in him at a very young age that humans were inherently evil, not to be trusted, and particularly women in general, in her mind, and basically stopped him from ever having any kind of meaningful relationships, friendships, significant other, or anything outside of her twisted world that she had made for him. And so you got to think, what does that do to a person? And then when she passed away, Ed was, basically left to his own madness out there at that farmhouse without her, grieving the loss of really the only person that he had in his life, and one that also kind of, kept him in that position through mental abuse and other things. And so it makes you wonder, what would Ed Gein have been like if he wasn't raised that way? Would he have ended up in that way somehow? Was it destined? Was it all mental illness, or was it a perfect storm kind of culminating together?
Yeah, I guess I was wondering more if there may have been more of a paranormal influence on there, like something bad had gotten into the house or to his mom's life to push that.
Okay,
I don't want to say demon or something like that, but
right.
Some of that bad energy out there.
Well, that's certainly a possibility that we did explore, that we did look into. When you're investigating, for the purposes of a film or a documentary or an episode, needless to say, there's a time limit of how long it can be.
Yeah.
And obviously we film 30 times more than that, sometimes even more. So not everything can make it in there, but there was some interesting facts about the land itself, things that happened on that land much before the Gein family moved in, and some different, folklore
that's interesting.
that may have been a part of it. It's hard to say.
Could you do a part 2 of this?
100%. In fact, while we were talking, I couldn't help but, for a moment, my mind just for a moment kind of drifted away, just kind of wondering, about the individual that had that knife. How is he doing right now? To me, that alone could have been a documentary. Just, his experiences, his house, what's happening there, and what's happened to him since he obtained this item.
That's really interesting. The land thing and the history of the area is really interesting to me.
And there's a lot of history. just to kind of point you in the right direction, if you ever wanted to look into it, maybe look into burial mounds in that area going far back before Gein, and people at the Washura County Historical Society could probably give you more.
Awesome. All right. Steve Shippy, he has the new documentary out now on Discovery Plus called Ed Gein, The Real Psycho. It's part of the Shock Docs series. Steve, I can't let you go without asking what else you got coming up here.
Well, we got a whole lot coming up. I've got 4 more documentaries in the Haunted Saginaw film series. 10 are available now on Prime for streaming. I started my own Patreon account where I'm releasing exclusive episodes, over 40 and counting, continuously releasing there, patreon.com/Steve Shippy. And looking to reopen probably one of the most infamous cases in my career, and possibly with Discovery Plus, Haunting on Dice Road, the Hell House.
Oh, nice. Can't wait for that. You let us know when that happens, okay?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about this.
All right, Steve. You have a good one, all right, bud?
Okay. Thank you. You too.